One is, what is the process of an agent issuing an identity? Like, how does it actually happen? And we break it down to 3 use cases. We're not telling you which one to pick. That depends on your use case. But roughly, there are, like, what we're seeing is that the 3 common methods that the organization use. First is you essentially treating your non-deterministic microservice, which is what AI agent in this case is, exactly the same way as you treat any other microservice. So you issue a credential to it, so it becomes, like, let's just say that it's like in the form of a digital certificate, which is derived from like hardware security module on a motherboard on some server or something like this. So now you have an agent that is basically treated exactly the same, like the way how software historically been treated. So that is one approach. Second approach is, it's very similar to this one, but think about the durable identity idea. So the idea here is that you have a microservice that you keep deploying, redeploying, you keep modifying, but you want that thing to have exact same identity for years and years and years. Maybe it's important for, like compliance, audit purposes, whatever. So this is kind of the idea of a durable identity. And the third use case, sometimes people call it digital twins. So this is when you're creating an agent on the fly because a certain human demands that agent to exist. Like you have a task that you want to perform. Maybe you click a button somewhere, or maybe you automate it via scripting. So you're creating an agent, and then you letting that agent borrow some of your credentials and go execute a certain task on your behalf. So that agent becomes kind of your child. Like when we were talking about these trees of processes and operating systems, it's kind of similar concept to that. And there is a complication there as well, because you might have it on the client. So you might have an agent running on a desktop, on a laptop, or you could have it in the data center where you click a button and the agent microservice gets instantiated somewhere on AWS. Those are things that we are articulating in a framework and providing you with recommendation. But again, what's important is that the issuer of identity needs to be exactly the same as the issuer of any other identity in a company. Because even when you define policy, like what is a policy? Policy is a statement. Like in that statement, you want to be able to refer to identities of different types. You could say, this agent is allowed to read data from this table, from the database, only when a person with a particular attribute in the organization using a particular laptop on a particular network segment asks a particular question. So notice how many different identity types I referred to when I articulated this policy. So, and if you manage these different identity types using different systems, good luck trying to enforce something like this. So that is the most important thing. Yeah. And the second comment that I want to zoom into regarding implementation of that identity for everybody, not just AI agents, is that the identity implementation needs to not rely on static credentials. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we talked about the importance of static credentials. Like essentially, like at some point they become impossible to manage. They're going to leak. You can vault them, you can encrypt them, you can rotate them, but eventually they're going to leak. Like as complexity goes up, they will leak. So you have to use authentication methods that are connected to physical world principles. So if you have like a certificate that is really, really short-lived, just like a certificate to complete a certain operation, and the certificate is issued using a certificate authority that's baked in hardware, like on HSM somewhere, that is a method of authentication that you don't have to worry about leaking. And you have to do it for machines, and you have to do it for microservices, and for humans, for AI, for everybody, because then your exposure footprint will always be zero. Your exposure to credential leaking will be zero simply because you have no credentials that can be leaked. That is really, really important at scale.